For the past 6 months that I've been out of the restaurant industry, I have enjoyed things that I never have in my adult life. Things like sick leave, vacation time, budgeting, a set schedule, and most of all, a paycheck. My first waitressing job was at the age of 20. I began working at Famous Dave's, a barbecue restaurant. As a waitress, I was paid $3.63 an hour. All of that money went to taxes. The largest paycheck I ever received as a server was $30. During a shift, I would usually make around $40 for 5 hours of taking tables and an additional 3 hours of side work after I was cut, which means no longer taking tables, making my total night of work 8 hours. At the time, minimum wage was $8.25 in Maryland. After 3 months, I did the math and realized I was making around $5 an hour, and I decided to make a change. I moved to one of my best experiences in the restaurant industry at Bonefish Grill. At Bonefish, I worked hard as it was a very busy restaurant and eventually got promoted to morning bartender shortly after my 21st birthday. This promotion came with the expectation that I would continue to work my PM serving shifts, often requiring 70 hours of work in 1 week. I was burnt out and decided to leave. From there, I worked several different places and eventually settled at Chili's for a while, which was good money because it only required a 1% tip out to the house. Tip out is how much a server gives back to the restaurant based on their sales. For example, if a tip out is 3%, which is standard, and a server had $1,000 in sales in a night, they would tip out $30 regardless if they got tipped on those sales from patrons or not. If a server made $200 that night, which would be 20% at each table, which never happens, then the server would walk away with $170. This brings up a bigger problem. If a table doesn't tip a server, then the server literally pays to wait on them. If a table racks up a bill of $100 and doesn't tip the server would pay $3 to have waited on them and receives no compensation for that labor. Also, the restaurant has no responsibility to servers who aren't tipped for their work. Despite the money being good, I left Chili's due to sexual harassment. At every single one of my serving jobs, I faced sexual harassment. Server is the number one job where women are sexually harassed. There's a lot of reasons for this. The number one reason is that unlike jobs with an hourly wage, a server's money is controlled by the shifts their manager puts them on, the sections of tables they get, and how many tables they get. This makes reporting sexual harassment by a manager a huge problem if a person wants to continue making good money. The second is money is made from tips from customers. So if a customer crosses a line saying something means losing a tip on that table, or worse, losing a regular who frequents the restaurant often and usually tips very well. When large corporations like Bonefish Grill or Chili's or Famous Dave's don't take responsibility for their workers' wages, it creates an environment of vulnerability for servers who don't often know if they'll make enough to survive or not. I ended my career in the restaurant industry at Five and Dime Ale House, and I can't say what kept me there for so long. It may have been that it was the least amount of evil I had ever had to deal with. And I also reunited with a friend I had worked with at a restaurant previously. Our close friendship and other wonderful friends I made it easier to stay at the restaurant. But in the end, all of the same problems I had at all the other restaurants were there. A good thing was that I had built a life where I was gradually developing skills to phase me out of the restaurant industry. When I left, I was only scheduled 1 shift a week. Not everyone is that lucky though. Neoliberal policies that allow employers to overwork and have direct control of the money their employees make based on their mood and favorites allow for restaurants to be a toxic, abusive place, not just for women, but for everyone. Not everyone has an education as means of changing trajectories in their life. I left with several questions on my mind. Why can't servers make a living wage? Why can't they have 40-hour work weeks instead of 4 back-to-back 12-hour days, which is pretty custom in the restaurant industry? Why can't we as a society value human lives and the necessary labor they perform over dollar signs?